Very nice Wednesday afternoon to everyone, and warmly welcome to the Business Technology Forum's Wednesday webinar. My name is Lotta Koskimies and I will be your moderator today. And our topic for the upcoming 45 minutes or so will be business acceleration with no low-code platforms. This is a very much expected and interesting topic. And we will have three presenters for today. So first we will start with the BT Forum Senior Executive Menno Huiben, who will share about the extension material that has been added to the BT standard related to the topic. Following Menno, we will hear from Sofygate's Juha Kujala, who is an executive CTO and Sofygate, one of our implementation partners. And Juha will share how AI is used for world's leading business platforms. Complementing very nicely with Juha's topic, we are really pleased to welcome CEO from Avaus, Emma Storbacka, who will then share some use cases about AI for sales and marketing. So we will have a really nice, I could almost say 360 on the topic. But before we get to these topics, just a few words about the Business Technology Forum and Business Technology Standard, because every time we are so happy to welcome new joiners for these webinars. So Business Technology Forum is a community developing and distributing the open source business technology standard, which is a framework for managing business technology. It is created since 10 years already with leading Nordic organizations. It is verified by the academia, and all the best practices that we are developing are freely available for anyone to use. So we are really promoting cross-organizational, human-centered, co-creative development so that we could all get the best benefits from digital transformation. This is really an ecosystem where we continuously develop and learn from the actual development work. So as an example, a company might excel in, say, project management practices, and we might co-create those practices for their purposes, and they would then give it back to the community so that anyone could follow up their example and develop the model further. And then we would still bring the additional development available for the community. So this model is really evergreen. It is extremely good and free to use. There are different ways of taking advantage of the model that we share via managebt.org. So you can, for example, rely on self-deployment. We enable building your know-how with providing the business technology standard green card test. So you can download different models from the web and then sign up for that test if you are interested in validating your knowledge on the model. Then you can, of course, train others and figure it out by yourselves in your organization to develop some parts, or say, for example, rely on the operating model that is one of the key elements found in Business Technology Standard. Then it is also possible to rely on assisted deployment with our implementation partners, such as Sofygate, by contacting them and building a development program together. Different ways of taking part and joining the community and the co-creation are then, in addition to what is found on our website, we also organize training courses, especially in Malaga. We have a training center there. And there are then different certification levels. I will share a few examples of those. Then it is possible also to join some events such as Living Labs, which have been really popular recently. If you are interested in learning more about the AI Living Lab, for example, then please do contact us for more information. The BT Standard certification training levels are threefold. So firstly, there is the free access for all for the BT Standard Green Card, which is on the left-hand side in this picture. So that is an online test that anyone can sign up for to validate their knowledge. That helps you to understand the fundamentals of the open source model. Then the next level for implementing BT standard with some typical modifications would be acquired via BT standard practitioner course. So that is what we are proposing, for example, in Malaga or as company-specific courses, for example. Then after that, it is possible to specialize for business technology operating model, data governance, end-to-end development, or service governance. So those are then more deep diving courses focusing on the specific topic. And after those courses, it is easier to implement BT standard with special, say, company-specific modifications. After that, it is also a lot more feasible applying the relevant extension materials that have also been developed with the Business Technology Forum community. Final note before I ask Menno to start is that we are organizing our yearly conference on the 18th of January 2024 in Finland. That time it is organized at the local Pörssitalo, and the topic, surprise, surprise, will be AI. So with these 4 words, Menno, happy to welcome you to join this webinar, and you may now take over the share and start your part of this webinar.
Thank you, Lotta. Thank you for the introduction, and welcome everybody. My name is Menno Huiben, and indeed, let me share my screen first. So I think you should be now seeing our Managed BT website.
That's correct.
So is it sharing?
Yeah. Yes, it is sharing.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going today to give only a very brief introduction about a new so-called industry adaptation we have created at the Business Technology Forum, because we have two far more interesting speakers than what I'm going to tell, so that's why I'm going to keep it short. I want to show this still, the website. As you know, last seminar we introduced the chat BTS. We have a chatbot where you can kind of interface also with our BT standard material and ask questions about it. I want also to show here that you can find all our extension material in video format. And the one I'm now going to introduce is here at the end. It's an industry adaptation. 2 months ago, we did the ERP implementation extension or industry adaptation. And today I'm going to give you a quick overview on this business acceleration with no and low code platforms. So in your own time, you can kind of browse the material here from our website for more details. Or you can then also contact our implementation partners like Sophiecate if you want to know more in depth about this material. But let me share a few of the slides from this material. Let's see if this works. Yeah. So here is the heading slides. As said, this is what we have started to call an industry adaptation. So it kind of applies to BT standard concepts and paradigms towards a real problem, like we did the ERP implementation and now the business acceleration. And in this case, it was also a bit of a cooperation with Sophiecate, and we have worked also with trying to get deeper with ServiceNow and Salesforce people on creating this material. The content follows a bit the same structure as what we did with the ERP material. So we introduce a bit the big picture that contains material which you can kind of use to engage your organization with these topics. With this topic, we also propose a framework that also helps you a bit to position this whole thing and recognize the different phases on how to obtain this business acceleration. And then a bit more detail on how to implement such platforms, how to manage them, and what kind of roles we need to do that. What I like is, in this case, we have a quite extensive appendix explaining a whole case, a virtual case about how to do the business design for the solution pipeline. And it sets out kind of in detail this framework with some examples. So that gives you perhaps some inspiration on how to go about yourself with this. But let me show a few slides on the big picture, and they also nicely connect to our next speakers. But The first one is kind of still introducing the whole idea of this accelerated business development and how do no low-code platforms fit in there. If you see the left upper chart is kind of the classical, the large solution development, like a large ERP program, how you take that into use. The red arrow symbolizes kind of the demand from the business or what you want to obtain, and the blue arrow moving from the left in is kind of the whole platform, like an SAP platform, which provides different templates on how to take it into use. So the activities around such large solution development are probably two major iterations of kind of capturing demand and see how it fits, and then kind of the actual implementation activities. So that's one way to go about with large solution developments. The other thing is then, of course, the agile software development, where you have sprints going in cycles through those steps. So go from demand, the kind of the DevOps, demand development, and then incrementally you build your platform or your solution exactly as you want it. So they're kind of each sprint adds on and gets the platform in further shape. The point of such no low-code platforms is that it kind of a bit combines the best of both. So you still, it comes from the left, comes kind of a standard solution, but you still go with very rapid sprints, implementing more and more functionality. And the key is what is now really dramatically developing with all the large language models or the generative AI is that you get far more, the no-code capabilities is getting stronger and stronger. So you get capabilities that you can write text and it becomes kind of codes that can be implemented. So the iterations become easier and easier, and it becomes faster and faster to get business requirements implemented in ready solutions that you can roll out to the business. So that's kind of how we position this no-code platform, and also the reason why it accelerates time to value. And what that means is it's also, I think that you guys have to think about also very much that it's also probably make some changes in the whole organization and what kind of competences will be required in the future as well. I mean, the traditional setup is that your business has the demands, and then IT will do it. So business has some list of requirements, and then some group of IT experts will put them into Salesforce and start to realize them. But what is happening now, also with supported by this AI and all, that you get kind of a new group of people. Either they come from the business who start to realize that, hey, this technology is actually becoming far more approachable than earlier, so I want to get really involved with it, or kind of IT people who start really to understand, hey, this is what the business needs. So you get a kind of a new group of competences that you need. And I think our Emma Storbacka from the CEO from Avas will also a bit highlight this topic in her presentation on what that means. The other thing is, and that goes back a bit more to this generative AI, that it gives really kind of nice possibilities to faster articulate demands, or and start to experiment with them. This slide is just an example, and our next speaker, Juha Kuila, will make it far more concrete on how this works into a Salesforce or ServiceNow type of setting. But if you go from left to right, from kind of a planning collective, a group of stakeholders wanting to articulate, crystallize their demands, first they need to understand the context. And by using generative AI, you can also use it already for brainstorming, some list of bullets you give it, and surely it comes up with some things you haven't yet thought about. So it can help to explore, get new ideas. And once you get there, you can start to bit better formulate them, and perhaps use the AI to get your loose text or ideas more visualized into a process. Which you can then also help to communicate with other people. What are you trying to obtain, and perhaps you gain more insights. And then the next step is, of course, the marvelous thing that's already now you have the capabilities of writing text, and the AI will generate the implementation code for you. So the whole solution development cycle will be much faster, where you can also very fast verify something or validate, is this solution doable, or is it what we expected, and communicate with it. And then from there, you can, of course, also the whole deployment and improvement cycles you can use AI for. But Juha will tell more about this part. So that's a bit few slides from the big picture. Further, the material goes proposing a framework. We have used this one that you can also kind of use to bit position and see where are you at and how are you doing your low-code notebook code platforms implementation projects. So on the upper level, you can see kind of the end-to-end flow from understanding what it's all about, how your customer or employee or end user, what is his or her impression, what is the touch point and what processes and data you find behind that. And then in the end, of course, on what platform and integration and infrastructure that's all running. So that's the big picture. And here is then it might be related to a business transformation that you want to kind of obtain larger changes. So there is some business rationale going on there. And then the point is here, this business design, that really the business can start to be far more responsible for that part and not delegated to a group of consultants that come and do it, but they can start to describe the user story and create some mock-ups. And also we have been promoting this idea of articulating a bit more precisely their requirements in good text that then also is a far better source for creating code, so the business logic part. And then we have the actual platform design where typically fit and cap activities are being done, showing some user interfaces and that type of activities done. So this presentation goes, the material goes to each of those boxes and explains them a bit further on how you can do it or what typically should be done there. I'm going to show you only two examples. The first one is this user story that you can also do it a bit more with some visualization, or we use something like business comics. We have started to call it that you can describe a process also in a way of interacting with different people and different roles, describing like a sales process or a lead opportunity process and how different people engage. So this can be also, if you articulate your requirements in this way, you can also better communicate it and get input from more people on it. So this is one proposal to do it, to describe user journeys in such a way. The other topic I already alluded to, that was this business logic. We propose, and you can find in material more detail about it, that to use a kind of semi-formal text to describe your requirements. And the more precise you describe them in such a format, and it's still in such a way that business people can really understand it, what it is, because it's some kind of clear defined logic. If you describe your requirements like that, it's also far more successful to start to apply AI on creating your code. So in the material, you can find some examples there on how we have been using that. Then we have some more advice on the implementation of low-code platforms. Surely that is, like the earlier slide was already showing, very much DevOps oriented. You will have fast sprints. This kind of a bit demonstrates that the first sprints will probably be a bit longer because you have to get the platform in place and get kind of a minimal setup available. But after that, you can start to really accelerate and have far faster sprints to roll out new functionalities or new capabilities to an organization. Of course, you have to take into account the capability of an organization to take all those changes into use. So there might be still some additional governance in place to make sure when do you exactly release it all out. But at least it shows here the kind of the capability that you can be much faster. So the platform management, I will skip that for now. We have also more detail on our roles. You know, we have with the whole BT standard, we have a whole set of like 70 roles defined in greater detail. And here those roles are also, a few of them are highlighted and explained like this in more detail, that what is exactly their role in the context of low-code, no-code platforms. So that's kind of the basic content of our new industry adaptation. Like I said, in the appendix, you will find then a whole example case described from virtual case on how to design the solution for managing your sales pipeline. So that goes through certain steps and visualizes on how to do that. So please go and have a look at that, because it's quite nice. We have quite detailed explained it, and you might get some inspiration on how to define your requirements in such a way that really that business people are also engaged in it and can kind of contributing it and making it their own. I think I'm going to stop there and then go back to my earlier slides. We showed a bit how this process might go, and I think that Juha might have a bit more to tell about such a process. Is that so?
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Menno, for good introduction for my part. So I will share my screen, and what I plan to demonstrate is two things. How do we make development so much faster on these world's leading business platforms? And when we make it faster, how do we still ensure that there's control, that there's sustainable value, not just really quick value, but also sustainable value, and things don't become a wild, wild west. The platforms we show the examples from are from Salesforce and ServiceNow, and you might have heard already about text to code. So what Menno was describing as the business logic, that can be already used as input for text to code, where, for example, we write the logic we wish to have as a comment, and then in this case, ServiceNow will generate code, JavaScript, that then executes the logic as we have written as a comment. Obviously, this is making developers more productive, but it's still a tool for developers mainly. But there's also capabilities for non-traditional developers, I mean low-code, no-code developers, where with the help of generative AI, we can simply describe what kind of a graph we would like to have on this dashboard. And with a drag and drop, we can then build an improved dashboard, and we can even then go ahead and build a workflow around it. So if we get this kind of a trigger, there should be a Teams message to a certain team. We activate this and ask our admin to deploy this into production. So generative AI is making development so much faster and making it accessible for so many more people. But it's not only just developing new solutions, but it's also how we can use generative AI in the context where we are, for example, getting a product return from a customer. This case is from Salesforce, where we can then write an outreach email, and we can use Prompt Builder to use ChatGPT in a controlled way. So we can configure this prompt template and use all the data that we have on this business platform, connect these dots, and provide that as input for generative AI that can then generate a response. What would be a good response to this customer in their specific context, and also that would be driving our business targets related to this case that the customer is contacting about. So many more people will be doing what is now called development, even without really knowing that they are developing actually digital solutions. So what is now changing is that what we used to click and point is now becoming conversations. What we used to code is becoming prompting. And where we used to be data-driven, we are actually becoming data-grounded. We are using an enormous amount of data to build a response, for example, to a customer's question. And all this is making changes so much faster. We can get new solutions developed and deployed even in minutes. So how do we make sure that it doesn't become a mess? we need a good framework like Menno just introduced. And I will just cover 3 key questions that I see at our customers very common. First one is that, are we even solving the right problems with the right platforms? If things are so quick and easy to develop, what if we end up with the spaghetti siloed solutions that don't provide a consistent experience and don't really work together in a harmonious way? And secondly, how do we make sure that these solutions that we are building on low-code, no-code platforms are sustainable? They are not just something that works for a little while, but they are actually good quality and they are sustainable for long-term future. And then the third question I often get is that now there might be business people developing something on low-code, no-code platforms, but who's going to support it? If that business critical application is not working one evening, am I going to get support from that citizen developer? Are they going to answer my call? Or how can we, in an efficient way, transition services to efficient production and service operations? So if we start from the first question, the common pitfall is that now governance is becoming the bottleneck. It would be really quick and easy to develop something, but we need to wait for 2 weeks to get this decided in the next steering meeting. And that should be something we focus on with, for example, the minimum viable governance approach that the BT standard is introducing. But even here, the vision is that the AI can help. What if we could just ask, what is the recommended platform to develop an application for, let's say, managing service requests related to events? And then based on our architecture guidelines, we can get the guidance. And if I'm ready to follow the architecture guidance, I can just go ahead and start the development. But if I'm planning to break some rules or create new risks for the business, then I might need to go for further discussions with the people responsible for architecture. But if we are now guided to the right platforms and we can validate that they are actually correct problems to solve, how do we then ensure that the citizen developers are producing sustainable solutions? We will not give them admin rights. That's not going to be a big success. We need to make it very granular what they can do. And this is something that can be also made easy. They can apply to become a citizen developer. They can describe what kind of an app they are about to develop. And then we can review this. Is this a good idea? Is this the right platform? We can approve it if it is so. And then we can onboard a new citizen developer with a quick start guide, for example, introduce the best practices, the quality assurance, etc. How do you make sure that you develop good solutions? But then the developer onboarded can get started with just importing an Excel spreadsheet, create a data model, but then go ahead and work on maybe adjusting it a bit, go through the experience layer, create a mobile app or portal, and also the workflow. And all of this can be fully low-code, no-code, drag and drop, configuring the data model, and also visually building the workflow, how this kind of a request would be handled, when do we need approval, when do we integrate with an external system, and so on. We can also enable collaboration. So it's not a one-man show, but the developer can invite their colleagues to join as, let's say, UX designer in this team. And again, they get very granular rights to now build, let's say, a mobile app for this specific application. And when things are ready, we can have an automated process to test it, validate it, run through health scans, but also work through release management and change management. So when we submit this new application for review, what happens on the platform owner or administrator side is that they get a new deployment request, and they can see that Mary has now the next version of her application ready for testing. And with a click of a button, we can deploy it to the testing environment, get the automated test results, maybe hear from the user acceptance testing as well, before then again clicking a button to take it to the next environment. And finally, through change and release management, also deploy that to production. So without the low-code, no-code developers even knowing in the background, we have a good and easy governance, making sure that we know what's happening. We can trace back what were the test results in testing environment, for example. And we can also see what are the different versions we have of different applications running, who are the people responsible for them, and who has the right to develop which applications, which parts of those applications at the moment. So now we have answered 2 questions, but there's this very important third question also. How do we make sure that this new application is then efficiently supported? The common pitfall here is that nobody told the service desk and nobody recorded anything in CMDB. So when they get a call, they have not even heard about a new application that was built on a low-code, no-code platform. But we do not need to make this difficult. Again, we can, for example, provide them with a service builder where they can create a new business service. They can simply go through a wizard-like experience where they describe what is this new service, who's the team that has developed it, who are the people who are going to support it, what are some of the KPIs, for example, how quickly are we planning to answer questions, who is the targeted audience for this, and finally submit it for review so that we get consistent, good quality service catalog content about this new application that was introduced. So these were some examples. How can we make sure that even if the speed is getting faster and faster, we also remain in control and are compliant with our best practices for managing digital solutions.
Thank you, Juha, and thank you, Menno. This was really interesting, and you have one question in line also, Juha. But let's first take Emma, and then the questions at the end. So please, Emma, now the stage is yours to share the marketing and sales insight on the topic.
Great. Hi, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it is visible.
Perfect. So my name is Emma Storbacka. Thank you for having me here to share a few experiences of how low-code, no-code applications are making it possible to take, for example, AI solutions into pretty fast production. And these 2 use cases I'm going to show are real practical applications we have developed with our clients. So Avaus is a boutique consultancy focused on making sales and marketing more efficient with data automation and AI. And just to reflect on the low-code, no-code development, we have been working with this topic since a long time back. We did our first AI use case in 2012, and it was definitely not low-code, no-code. And the speed of development that we see now is quite fantastic, but also puts a lot of pressure on the operating model that needs to support this. So when we talk about sales and marketing as an application area for AI, we see that especially now with generative AI, marketing, sales, and service are the domains where the value potential is the highest, but also where the risks are the lowest. So a lot of experimentation is happening in this domain, and it's also where we recommend that you start with your AI journey, especially in the generative AI space. And use cases are abundant. Most organizations are looking at the pretty big list of potential use cases that you could be working in, ranging from anything around sort of auto-generated copy and images and videos to how do you automatically generate responses to incoming service requests in a customer service interface or different types of chatbots, as well as how do you automate or semi-automate the generation of sales interaction, proposals, or inquiries. And in general, one could say that all of the generative AI use cases are very much efficiency driving, whereas the classic AI use cases are the ones where you will find a bigger top line effect. But in both areas, we see that low code and no code is making acceleration of the business impact much faster. And we also pretty fast come to the questions that Juha was describing, which is how do I, as an IT organization, manage all of this sort of surge in demand from the business to actually develop things? And one of the things that we see as often being a partner to the business stakeholders is that sometimes, or actually quite often, our business stakeholders say that, can we do this in a way where we keep IT out of it? And then I think that's a very good sign of that the operating model is not supporting this sort of accelerated business value. So really important topic, and will become quite a big spaghetti unless the operating model is solved. And I really love this picture that Menno showed, which I just brought in here. And we see this very clearly that actually the most important stakeholders are neither complete business or complete IT stakeholders, but those who are somehow finding each other in between, just usually because they are curious about what could be done and have a very low threshold for experimentation. Those are typically the advocates in the organization that have been playing around with generative AI or have developed their own initial applications. And those guys are usually also the ones that are very eager to start going and to actually develop something concrete. And I wanted to bring you two use cases here that we have been working on in the last months since the springtime, I would say. And maybe end with a few learnings around what really is hard in this and what is easy. And maybe a little bit of a spoiler is that, you know, the hard part is not the tech, it's all of the soft process stuff around, as well as the data. So the first example is a large language model. We've now called it here Industrial Company GPT. So this is a Swedish-based global organization that manufactures technical appliances. And as the product is very technical, there is an abundance of information available. And luckily, they have structured this data in a very smart way, which has enabled them to actually feed it into and train and fine-tune an LLM, which then serves their service technicians with faster answers to questions in a sort of chatbot format. And the way that this, for example, application now is created is that there's a subset of structured data together with a master prompt and an AI model, which is available through in this case, sort of the Azure environment. But fairly simple technical setup to, in a few months, develop proofs of concepts using, let's say, pretty forward-leaning technology. One use case being the chatbot, the other one being the ability to actually generate new information around the technical products. And how you then take that to market is sort of a question of, you know, what are those applications we can build? How can we get this into this CRM system? How can we develop an app which makes it possible for all of the service technicians, for example, to access this large language model? And here you can see the first use case. So the typical usage of this is asking for some fairly technical advice or details from a database of models across of information across different information pieces. And the other use case is maybe seems a bit more advanced, but actually is easier to apply, having a service technician actually do a short video of how the tool is supposed to be used, and then translate that into a service manual draft, something that previously was done manually, but now is possible to do much more efficiently with generative AI, with a human in the loop, of course. So this is one very kind of simple and quite typical application in the AI domain that we see currently, how to generate information and how to leverage the database of information available in the company to make it available for anyone to use. If we look at a more client-facing or end customer-facing use case, we work with a tire company that has also a very wide range of products, and it's quite difficult for a customer to know what tires are the best option for your specific car and your specific conditions. And finding that on their website is rather complicated. And going into this type of use case, of course, supporting customers is key, but also to showcase the power of generative AI in this case was really important. And again, this is where application development at a sort of accelerated pace is really driving that objective of making, for example, the management team grasp what this could mean for the customers or for internal teams. And also making sure that people get their hands dirty and learn by doing. And again, application development at accelerated speed are ways to do exactly this. So in this case, what the application output is a first version of a customer interfacing sales assistant chatbot, which basically can advise you on what types of tires you should consider, given the context and the input that you feed into the chatbot, where normal, let's say, old school machine learning chatbots have not been able to provide a good enough user interface. So those two examples, I think, are very, very, typical and normal use cases that we see developed in many companies right now. And when we do these types of projects, what we see is that there's quite often a lot of focus on the AI model itself. We just had a presentation of the first one, and the first question that came up was, what model did you use? Where this really is not maybe the most critical question. So the AI model and developing these individual use cases is actually the easiest part. What really becomes more hard is how do you structure the data? How do you plan for a scaled up capability where data and AI is doing more of your work in sales or marketing or customer service? And then how you govern this whole solution from plan to design to actually managing and servicing the live productionized capability. So when you are looking at doing this accelerated business development, keep this in mind and do not be fooled by the fact that low code, no code makes it very fast for you to get to your first minimum viable product. Keep in mind also that these other topics require quite a lot of work and diligent execution for them to be able to scale in a compliant and business sustainable way. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma. Really concrete and good examples, and a great reminder at the end that eventually when it comes to the baseline, good data is what we need. And if you didn't join our data governance webinar earlier this year, you can find that recording also on the managept.org website. And there is also an extension material by the PT Forum that you can browse through and think about that, hey, what could we maybe do in terms of our data governance and how could we improve there so that we are then more mature in taking advantage of the generative AI or other solutions. So that was our webinar offering for today. I also posted the link if you happen to be in Finland in January and can handle the local French. So then that might be an interesting webinar because we are really looking at the spectrum of how to do this in practice. We are organizing mini hackathons at that event, but also looking at the bigger picture because like Emma, you also brought up here, the marketing perspectives, that's also, of course, really important to understand the ethical aspects and everything that comes to how do we actually make it accessible and equally available, the data for everyone. So big, interesting topics and at the same time, hands-on concrete working. Now I want to thank you all for joining this webinar today, and special thanks to Emma, Juha, and Menno for making this webinar possible. Like always, we will share this webinar to everyone who had enrolled, and also share the link to the recording on our website, so it will be available for anyone interested in there. There is also one final question. There's a lot of hype around unstructured data, but the models require structured data. Well, that was rather a very observative, to the point comment. Good comment to conclude on. So thank you so much for joining, and see you again in 1 month at the next upcoming webinar. And Erik and Yasar, that is, I believe, related to the January conference, and that will be on-site only, so no recordings available for that one, unfortunately. But of course, we will be sharing some of the highlights then at the upcoming webinars after that. Thank you for joining, and enjoy the rest of the Wednesday. Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.